Today, I will tell you about the day when the Messiah first became angry at the system and the order of the world. The first light of day touched the streets of Jerusalem. The air was still windy, and the wind carried a heavy scent. The smell of olive oil mixed with the smoke of sacrifices coming from nearby villages. That day, Jerusalem was preparing for a great festival, the Feast of Passover. As always, hundreds of Jews from other lands had come to the city. The synagogue was where people felt closest to God, and on that day, it would become the stage of an event that would be remembered forever. The Messiah was walking toward Jerusalem with his disciples. He didn't make a sound as he walked, his face deep in thought. This was not unusual for him, but the disciples sensed something different. Just a few weeks earlier, he had raised Lazarus from the dead in Bethany, and everyone saw him as more than a prophet. Many believed he could be the Messiah. When he entered Jerusalem before the feast, people welcomed him, shouting, "Welcome, Son of David." But he could already sense the storm that would come after those praises. The heart of Jerusalem, the temple for Rome. The synagogue was more than just a temple. It was an economy, a center of power. For the Jews living under Roman rule, the temple was the last bridge between God and man. But that bridge had turned into a marketplace. When Jesus entered the synagogue, he could not believe what he saw. Everywhere stood merchants and sellers. In one place were traders of sheep and goats, in another, sellers of doves. Their voices were so loud that the prayers of the people could no longer be heard. Instead of prayers, the sound of silver coins striking wooden tables filled the air. To pay the temple tax, one had to exchange Roman coins for the sacred shekel, and that exchange brought enormous profit. The holy place had become a trading house. Jesus stopped for a moment. His eyes swept over the crowd. A small child holding his mother's hand tried to pray, but flinched at the shouting of a merchant passing by. Another voice yelled, "Sacrificial goats here!" Cheap and wholly approved, the sacred had become noise. The purest place on earth smelled not of faith, but of business. From silence to storm, the face of Jesus suddenly darkened. He took a deep breath, then knelt to the ground and picked up a few pieces of rope, probably the ropes used to tie the animals. He twisted them together, forming a whip. People began watching him with curiosity. And then the storm broke. The peaceful expression on his face vanished, replaced by holy anger. He shouted, "My Father's house will be a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves." His voice echoed through the stone walls. He raised the whip and began overturning the tables. Silver coins scattered across the floor, cages broke open, and animals ran wild. The scene looked like a reflection of God's wrath unleashed on earth. The crowd panicked and fled in fear. No one knew what to say. Some merchants cried out, "Who is this man?" But the Messiah did not stop. His face was burning red, his eyes blazing like fire. And at that moment, everyone there felt the holy anger of God. Fear and silence. The temple froze in silence. For a while, only the cries of the animals could be heard. Jesus threw the whip aside and took a deep breath. His disciples watched him from afar, both afraid and astonished. From the crowd came whispers, "Who is this man that he does such things in the house of God?" But some had already engraved his words into their hearts, because deep down, everyone knew the temple had become a marketplace, a stand against corruption. This event was not a burst of rage, it was a manifesto. The Messiah was angered that God's name was being spoken alongside money. The priests were robbing the people under the excuse of forgiving their sins, preventing the poor from worshiping. Jesus knew this. Everything that happened in the temple that day was not for God, but for the system. He did not only target the merchants, he targeted a system that sold faith like a commodity, that measured mercy, that excluded the poor. The Messiah's anger was the anger of God himself, because this corruption had rotted justice. What happened that day was a rebellion. The priests' plan. News of the event spread quickly throughout the land. The priests were furious. They were already disturbed by Jesus gaining the people's trust. After Lazarus had been raised from the dead, and now this, their patience had run out. Among themselves, they said, "If we do not stop him, everyone will start following him." And from that moment on, they began plotting to kill him. But he knew all of this. As he left the temple, he looked calm, as if he had fulfilled his mission. One of his disciples, trembling, asked, "Rabbi, why did you do this? They might harm you." Jesus simply replied, "Those who fear the truth are the ones who have already corrupted it." The meaning. What happened in the temple that day was not just a physical cleansing, it was a rebirth. Jesus restored the temple as a place of mercy, not money. After the event, the people were divided. Some saw him as a rebel, others as a hero. That day he said, "My Father's house shall be a house of prayer." But this very act would lead to his crucifixion, the end. That day, the temple was wrapped in silence once more. The doves had already flown away. Broken tables, scattered coins, everything remained as it was. Those marks were the signs of a revolution, not one of swords or stones, but of faith. And perhaps the lesson to be learned is this: even beneath God's anger lies mercy. Thank you for listening. If you've watched this far, please like the video. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments for future videos, my brother. Peace be with you.